Welcome to today's episode, the podcast where we discuss the most recent installments of a different series every show. It's Monday, August 25th. Long Story Short is a Netflix animated series created by Raphael, Bob-Waksberg, the creator and showrunner of BoJack Horseman. It's been 5 years since BoJack wrapped, but the tragic comedy about a washed-up 90s sitcom star who happens to be an anthropomorphic animated horse voiced by Will Arnett remains one of Netflix's most critically acclaimed series. We're talking about an 8.8 on IMDb TV, 82 on Metacritic.
It was the first original adult animated series for Netflix.
I'm not surprised. It consistently is one of the top/greatest TV show on like all the lists that you can think of. Empire had it 66, IGN had it 43, Rolling Stones has it 41, Screen Rant 36 out of 60, Variety 55, IMDb 65. When did BoJack push to another level?
I think it was around season 3 because season 1 got more mixed reviews, and then season 2, I think people started to pay attention. I think season 3 is really when it hit. I would give the series like an 8 out of 10. What about you?
It depends. My favorite episode. Well, what's your favorite episode?
Probably, well, I like A View from Halfway Down, the penultimate episode of the entire series, but I would probably go with the funeral episode. I think it's season 5, episode 6.
Right. So you went with the more realistic ones. I went with the silent episode, the fish out of water, which Rolling Stone agrees with because it says it's the 26th best episode of all time. I would give the show a 10 out of 10 for episodes like that. I would also say the show had its lulls. Episodes I absolutely hated when he slept with one of the his crush's daughters or something that.
Yeah, I mean, he was about to.
He was about to. It still jumped the shark for me for a while, and then it jumped back on.
What's so funny is that you hated that episode, but that is such like a critical episode in the show because they continually talk about it.
So it fluctuated from caustic comedy to stark emotional realism. Sometimes those hit hard. Sometimes to me, I just cringed because of how awkward it got. But I do believe that they did a good job how he aged at the end. You know, they really showed the maturity, and you can't just say that, what's his name? Raphael, Bob-Waksberg is the only one who deserves credit. Who was the other person who worked with him on it?
Lisa Hannah-Walt was the person that
She's
did the
one
animation.
Who did all the animation, and that's, if you look at Fish Out of Water, again, my favorite episode, the animation's where it's at.
And I know a lot of the times with the animation, they focused on puns and visual jokes so much so that the writers didn't even see them until they were editing it.
Right.
And I know that also it wasn't their decision to end it as early as they did. It was a higher-ups decision. Netflix said that they wanted it to end after season 6, but I think Bob-Waksberg wanted to go for a couple more seasons.
Has it been outed who decided to cancel it? Okay. It's interesting how Tuca and Birdie also got canned and moved into another network. Right.
Well, that was canceled after the first season of Netflix, even though that got critical acclaim as well. And then I think 2 seasons ran, so season 2 and season 3 ran on Cartoon Network.
And so how did Long Story Short come to be 5 years later?
I think that, this is his return to Netflix, and it's Lisa Hannah-Walt and him are tight. Like, there's not one show that they've worked because he's worked on only 4 shows, including this. She's been part of all of them.
We both watched the first 2 episodes here. Right. What are their names?
It's Yoshi's Bar Mitzvah and Hannah's Dance Recital.
Yes, those are the 2 life-changing moments, and it's not really even Yoshi and Hannah's story in those 2. It's actually the surrounding characters.
It's kind of like the Venture Bros, but a lot of the times they don't actually focus on the Venture Bros in that show.
Yeah, what were your previous, before you went in and watched the show, what was your take on what the story was going to be about?
I didn't know anything.
You didn't know anything. You came in there blind. I knew that cartoons have gut punches, so I was expecting that a little bit. But I also knew it took a while for BoJack to find its footing. It sometimes takes animation and cartoons a while before that happens.
Yeah.
I expect with the Office reboot that's coming around, that's also going to take a little bit of getting used to before people accept it.
I know that they were trying to be a lot more focused on, especially Lisa Hannah-Walt talked about this, no animals. That was a huge pro for her. That's why she wanted to do the show. But also,
does it make it easier?
Yes, but also not focus as much on the backgrounds.
That's
true.
There
was so much mise-en-scène in BoJack Horseman. This is just supposed to be a lot more focused on, again, the characters themselves.
Only that, they'll have, and you can have whatever opinion you want on the different animation style, but the character in focus usually is the one who's on the scene, and the rest of the background, if there's a bunch of other people there, they're all in the same faded, I'm thinking specifically about in the Bar Mitzvah episode when you have Uncle Barry there.
Yeah.
If you look around him, everybody is blue because they don't want anybody's attention to be on anybody but him.
Exactly. They had color maps for each episode, and Lisa Hannawald said that it's actually a lot more difficult to make the show seem simplistic with animation than you would think. But yeah.
I mean, Netflix does also have this like crazy track record. They don't do one type of animation. Love, Death, and Robots is famous for bringing in a ton of different directors. Big Mouth, F is for Family, Carol and the End of the World, Disenchantment. Those are all critically acclaimed shows. You also have some less liked ones, but still original ones in Exploding Kittens, Captain Fall, Agent Elvis. They run the gambit. They have all different types of comedies. So going into Long Story Short, I didn't know whether or not the long story short would be that it's good or that it's bad.
I wasn't even sure if it was really going to be a comedy.
That's fair.
Because, like, especially when you get to the end of BoJack Horseman, it's not like there's many jokes anymore.
Yeah, and to separate yourself from all the other animation styles out there, and everybody seems to have their own, like, even, what was the one earlier this year that had, like, 9/11? That they were
oh, right, yeah, you're talking about the Rami Youssef
show.
show.
Rami Youssef show. It's like everybody's getting their own childhood experience. I mean, Bill Burr started with the F is for Family and all that. So this one, you find out really soon into episode 1, it's about a Jewish family, and they have these New Jersey attitudes, even though they're from California. They razz each other all the time. They're loud, they're opinionated, they're judgy, they're angry, they're somewhat stereotypical. They remind me a little bit of Diane's Boston family, except they're friendlier.
Oh, from BoJack Horseman.
Yeah. Except they're nicer because they do love each other a little bit more than they like Diane, right?
Right. But here I also felt like Avi, he's the main character of the entire TV. I mean, that's why I felt for the first 2 episodes.
For the first 2 episodes, but even BoJack wasn't always the main character in BoJack Horseman, where the title was about him. It feels like Avi is definitely sort of the point of view character. However, if you have to say who was getting the most experience in the first 2 episodes, I would say his girlfriend, right?
Jen.
Jen in the first episode. It was really about her and how the family acclimated to her. And the second episode, it felt it was more about Shira, his sister.
I was going to say, Shira, I feel like is the person that they focus on.
So it's weird how you have these 25-minute episodes in each one, and it feels like Avi's the main character, but at the same time, if you say who's having the most growth as a character, it's not him.
I also really liked how with Jen, I wasn't sure if they were really going to end up together. And then because of what the show does with its timelines, you see, they do.
Well, they do and then they don't. Because in 2022, he's in a car and he looks like he's just had a really hard breakup. Did you catch the fact that their names are different than their parents?
No, I didn't.
So, you know, when like parents do the hyphenated thing and they have both their names in it, instead they just combine Schwartz and Cooper because it's Naomi and Elliot. And they made Schwooper. The dad says it so quickly at the airport, I had to like replay that back. The main difference between this story and all the other family stories is the twist that they flip through time like it's a home movie.
Right. No, I really enjoyed that, though. That was so cool.
So we see like 96, 2004, 2022, 1991, and 2014 by the end. I'm missing one.
If you had to guess, how late do you think the series goes? Late being like most recent year.
2060.
It doesn't go into the future. I won't give any spoilers, but it's 2022.
Okay, so we have seen the most recent one.
Right.
It makes it almost feel like it was supposed to come out in 2022, if that's the case. But it does leave room, I guess, for future seasons?
Yeah.
Yes?
Absolutely.
Okay.
They want to go more than one. This is not supposed to be a limited series.
The only thing that seems to be tying in all these different years is that they're always featuring milestones. The first scene we see is at the mom's funeral, Naomi's mom's funeral, them driving back in the car. Then, of course, you have Yoshi's bar mitzvah, which is the majority of that episode. 2004 takes up most of the first episode. Avi brings his girlfriend Jen home for the first time from college, and we get to see, I guess, Yoshi and his awkward 13-year-old self break out when he starts lighting his candles, and that just leads to a crazy drama by the end of the episode.
How did you think they represented 2004? Do you think they did a good job?
I don't think it matters. Like, as long as you don't show smartphones, like what they were depicting was just the preparation for a bar mitzvah. There was nothing authentically 2004 about it. But I did like seeing how they aged the characters. In the second episode, 2014 is the main storyline. You have Avi and Jen's daughter, whose name is Hannah, and she's going to perform at the Christmas show. So Avi's sister Shira and her wife Kendra make the trip to Santa Rosa to ask to ask Avi to donate his sperm.
Oh, that was the most awkward part of the story. It reminded me a lot of Friends, however, kind of the opposite way, where
You're
in
right,
season
yeah.
4, I remember with Phoebe's brother, like, he needed eggs.
True. I wonder how common that is for them to use their own family as the donors. I'd never really thought about that. It also is funny because the whole point of the Christmas pageant or like thing that they're doing there, right, is to donate, like find donations for pandas.
Yeah.
And so it's like two forms of donations. One is kind of crude, and the other one is like it ends up being revealed that it's not the good type of donation for pandas. I don't know what that means. But yeah, so Avi may or may not be the main character. He's kind of like the older brother, Michael Bluth. He's not infallible. Even by the second episode, he becomes way more cynical than the previous storyline of him when he was going to his brother's bar mitzvah.
Interesting comparison. I did not pick up the Michael Bluth thing, but you're right. Yeah, where it's like it seems like he always has some big problem.
Let me continue on the Arrested Development line then, because I'll go into my pros. I do like the storytelling out of order. I think that's very creative. It backfired for Arrested Development in the fourth or fifth season,
the fourth season when they brought it back, yeah.
Yeah, I thought it was the fifth season, right? Because they brought it back in the fourth season.
They did a fourth and fifth season, but the fourth season is when it like officially returned to Netflix.
Thank you. But I thought, was it the fifth season that they did the weird time thing? Because then they released a version where it was all together.
That was the fourth season.
That was the fourth season. Yeah. Okay. It is bittersweet, though, by the way that they're pulling it off here. And I think because they've centered it around 10 episodes. Was the first season to BoJack 10 episodes or was it longer?
I think it was 12 episodes.
Yeah, same here. So this is a shorter season, but I think that means that they've probably mapped it out correctly. And so you do get to see the family growth. That's a pro for me. The short installments makes it easy to binge, also a pro. I wasn't sure if I liked the animation at first, but I liked how they've showed them age. It's very easy to track the different versions of them over time. And I also like how their personalities also go through shifts. Like Avi in 2004 during his brother's bar mitzvah is already a music file. He's really in love with the idea of how they even make fun of the show by saying how time just goes really quickly in a song, in a Paul Simon song. But by 2014, he hates all the music that's coming out. He's at that mode of his life where he's like, nothing's good anymore. You know, it's all back in the day stuff that I love.
I think that Raphael Bob-Waksberg would be happy to hear you say that, because you would think that they would like really set up a timeline, but that's actually not the way that they went about it. They kind of expanded from the pilot, so they had to make sure to bring kind of like hints or at least things that actually they introduced earlier on. But
also you could apply that to Jen, his girlfriend, because she's starting out as an actress in 2004, and then by 2014 she's quit and she's kind of settled in to raise a family with her husband.
What I like too is that they kept the same voice actors. Like with them being you know kids and adults, they could have easily tried to like change it.
That would have been a mistake.
Yeah, and I think that it's very good that they just stayed with the same voice acting throughout the 10 episodes.
Right, this isn't How I Met Your Mother. However, if they had been able to get Bob Saget, don't AI Bob Saget, that would be bad. Never mind, I scratched that. Do you have any other pros?
Well, I'm surprised to hear you say that it took you a second to adapt to the animation, because to me, I like the first second I saw it, I was like, oh, this is great. It fit the tone well. It was very charming.
I think my brain clocked what you were talking about, where there's no animals, so it's not as like creative. You're not getting the Ethan Hawke or Mr. Peanut Butter. I'm missing that, like a Labrador Retriever on a guy's head or whatever. And it felt like by not having the background just filled with jokes, you weren't getting as much of a comedy. And so like one of the biggest reasons I like BoJack was just missing.
Okay, so in terms of like kind of details,
it was relying more on, you said, the family drama, the family personalities, and they are a lot, you know, getting into that. And so the first few scenes, I'm like listening to the mom's character, Naomi, and she is just complaining. And it's a little hard to listen to. By the end, it kind of pays off. She gets in the fight with Barry and you realize it's all just like, it comes together. They all love each other, but I felt a little bit like Jen was supposed to feel, just overwhelmed.
Well, I think that with Naomi, she was kind of channeling what, especially like the shows that were coming out during that time in the 90s were like, where it was like the mom, I think of like Malcolm in the Middle or something like that, was usually kind of the the overbearing one, and they were playing off of the cliches. I don't know, maybe I'm just reading too much
absolutely.
in it.
Yeah. But the stereotypes are its own thing. It's like you can take them for good and take them for bad. I do think that the soundtrack deserves a little bit of, because the soundtrack is very similar to BoJack or
Right.
Valley Heat, that podcast where the jokes are in the actual like words of
The lyrics.
The lyrics.
Yeah.
Yeah. I always remember Princess Carolyn as she's driving away in the radio, and it starts like, just keep driving, Princess Carolyn. And in this, what was it? In the second episode, they're just making fun of the fact that it's supposed to be for all holidays, but really it's for Christmas.
Right.
Yeah. So I like that. And then I also found it very clever that even though I think I said this point already, but Yoshi and Hannah are the two in the titled names. They are like the least featured of their episodes. Maybe Yoshi a little bit more in his bar mitzvah episode, but Hannah really doesn't do much in her second episode.
I feel like it has to be a factor. It was too much like of a selling point for the second episode. I feel for them not to mention it again. That Yoshi thought that his sister went to him first. Like I feel like that is going to be probably bought out in later.
So Avi, who's been asked for the entire second episode whether or not he will donate his sperm to Shira, who then also goes into her trauma of her past and why her brother should owe her this because he wasn't always the best.
That was a
brother.
Sad story. Yeah, when she was like when she almost
was in the water in 1991 or whatever. Yeah, but then at the end he still says no because he wants another kid with Jen. He realizes the happiness of fatherhood, but at the same time, Jen has now gone through a whole kind of existential thing where she may want to go back into acting. We don't know. At the same time, Kendra and Shira decide to drive off into the sunset with plan B, that they're going to talk to the younger brother, Yoshi, and get his sperm, and he instantly agrees.
Well, I think it's important to note that Avi did, by the very end, say that he was willing to do it.
Okay.
Yeah, but both of them just said that it was too awkward by that point. And
just remembered, so he watches his daughter's recital, and then he's so proud, and then he tells Jen that he wants to have another kid, and then I remembered the scene where Shira was like, yeah, we're not doing it that way, and so he was connecting with her because they did mend their relationship a little bit because he does text her, but I'd forgotten that he had also agreed and she just doesn't want his sperm anymore.
Yeah, and Shira, when she's in the car, does lie to Kendra by being like, yeah, he's just not into it anymore.
And families tend to lie to each other. It seems like that's a little bit of a theme of the show. One of my mixed points here, so it's not a pro nor a con, but it's like the F is for family kind of thing where because you have so much caustic family drama, that I hate you, I forgive you, the back and forth of that. I'm used to, when I was growing up, like if you were raised on TV land, just the humdrum life of a super civil, there was no such thing as sarcasm and back talking on Dick Van Dyke or Leave It to Beaver, that type of stuff. Yeah, at least between the kids and the parents, they were always super respectful. And so this is like a completely different experience. And what I'm trying to say is we need to bring it back. No, I'm kidding. No, but it's just something different that you always have to get more used to when you're watching it. And I'm not sure if, like, we have so many shows doing that now, right?
Yeah. So
whether or not it gets tiring.
Does it make the sarcasm, does it make the family less likable to you? Or is
At first, but I think they grow on you over time. They have funny moments, which help. I think when the brother and the sister are having the argument, they go outside and there's already a couple having an argument and they ask them to move for that reason. That was funny. Some of the jokes don't land well. I think the flare at the airport was too forced. The idea that Barry was prevented from coming to the bar mitzvah in time because the father had left flares, that was so like just random. And then the mom's overbearing personality, I've already talked about that to death. But then the cons come around, right?
Okay, yeah.
And specifically, I'll say there's one overplayed joke that I've seen in a lot of Jewish stereotype shows that we've done. So Nobody Wants This came out almost a year ago.
Yep.
Curb Your Enthusiasm, Lady in the Lake. There's one joke that's been in all of them.
Oh, okay.
Do you know what it is?
Yeah, wasn't it the plate, like the kosher plate?
It's always, so 20% of Jews, I've looked this up, actually it's like 17%, stay kosher, kashrut. They stick with the plan of, and that just because you stay kosher doesn't actually mean that you abide by even the practice of having one plate used only for milk and one plate used for meat.
Right.
And that if like they mix, then you have to destroy the plate. I remember that was such a big deal in Lady in the Lake, but that took place in like the 60s. Natalie Portman's character got yelled at by her husband, but it's not the majority of Jewish people. And yet the way that TV makes it seem, and this show included, is that like everywhere abides by that rule or that tradition. That's crazy. Another one that they made a point of was so that was a good call by you. The one time I don't remember seeing that joke played because it wasn't really a joking series was we were the lucky ones.
We were the lucky ones.
I don't think it was in that. But then when Avi is complaining about Christianity and how everything is Christmas
Right.
oriented during the holidays and how Christians are lucky because they get to celebrate a lot more. And while Jews are stuck not having sex, that stopped me right there where I was like, if you look at Christianity, Catholic, Orthodox, evangelical, it's all you can't have sex before marriage. Judaism isn't like that at all. So it was such a strange line for them to put in there that Jews weren't allowed to have sex while Christians were. That very confusing.
I mean, it's obviously not really that much of a surprise that Raphael Bob-Waksberg and a lot of people that they cast were Jews or are Jews. In fact, they even had for a working title at one point, "Come Look at the Jews," until they realized that was too aggressive a title.
Yeah. I think they chose the right title. And then the predictable beats, I do feel like they are relying on kind of easy stuff like, oh, a marriage falls apart. And the reason why the marriage fell apart is because the wife gave too much. She gave up her dreams, that feels a little cliche. Also kind of reminds me of Mr. Peanut Butter and Diane.
Right.
Their relationship.
Very much so. Yeah.
And then I think my biggest my biggest fear for the show is also the strongest strength of the show, and it's the storytelling out of order. I could see it working for the first season, the entirety of the first season if they've mapped it out but you remember the show Me, Myself, and I, that Bobby Moynihan show, and what they did was he was like the middle version of himself, and then there was a younger version of himself, and then the old version of him was
remember
like
that.
John Larroquette or someone. The problem with a show that's trying to tell 3 stories of someone's life all at the same time, or many more than 3, is that like you can only mature one version of them, and then that has to stay consistent throughout the rest of their life. And if you're doing that at a scale of a full family, you either have to get really, really basic where the changes don't really matter over time, or you end up just completely messing up the canon, and you're like, I thought he learned his lesson here, or she learned her lesson here, and then apparently they didn't.
Kind of like when you also write yourself into a corner like Lost and kind of after the first season.
Right.
I agree with you, but I think that Netflix has a lot of faith in Raphael Bob-Waksberg because, again, he's done 3 shows, Tuca and Birdie. He did Undone, which, again, Amazon Prime's first adult anime original, BoJack Horseman. All have gotten critical acclaim, so much so that this was greenlit for a second season prior to the first season even coming out. And so I think that with him, it was a little shocking to hear that they didn't plan it out. But I agree with you where it's like it's such an interesting way to tell a story, but you really hope that they don't start like retconning things, which can so easily happen.
I just feel like if you have to either keep the characters in the past stunted at a certain level,
Right.
or the characters at the future are just going to become so depressing because it's like, this is what you were, and now you're completely here. That's sort of what they did with BoJack, but because it was more of a linear scope, I know sometimes they did like 90s episodes or flashbacks, but like for the most part, it was a linear progression for him. That was part of the reason why I jumped back on the show when he started moving away towards those really self-destructive behaviors that he had. I'll be curious to see how this goes. It's a real attempt. It's cashing in on nostalgia 100%. Overall, I'm giving it a solid 7, and I promise to watch at least one more episode.
I think I'm probably going to watch the rest of the series. We've said it's supposed to be more grounded as well, but I don't know if it's going to have, because of the fact that it's more grounded and realistic, the same type of opportunities that like something like BoJack Horseman did, where they could really go anywhere with the plot, especially with the final seasons. But
who's your favorite character?
Probably Avi. Yeah, I like Avi.
Okay.
Yoshi, I think, is the funniest character, but Avi's probably
Yoshi,
my favorite.
I just liked his awkwardness when he was 13, and they never went back to it. It was just him staring at Jen, and I was like, oh, how creepy are they going to make that? And then he just ended up being a normal 13-year-old kid. I was like, okay, good.
Overall, the show has gotten critical acclaim, 100% on Rotten Tomatoes, 7.2 on IMDb, but only around 200 reviews. But when it comes to like the actual critics, sometimes it has 100% on Rotten Tomatoes, and it's like you get a 7 out of 10 in there. But no, I mean, The Guardian gave the series 4 out of 5. Financial Times gave the the series 5 out of 5 and called it a masterpiece. Slash Film called it one of the best new Netflix shows of 2025. And Variety awarded its Variety's pick and called it hilarious and heartbreaking.
Did you say what you were going to give it?
I would probably give it an 8 out of 10.
Okay.
2
so
episodes. But
I will stick with my 7 because I'm just being a little stickler here and getting used to it. But overall, I do see the potential for sure.
On the scale of something like A Real Pain, which was definitely a sad comedy, romantic comedy like Nobody Wants This, or just a plain out comedy like Curb Your Enthusiasm, which one would you say this show is most like?
Right. A Real Pain, I think, is way more serious. They've even like made fun of Holocaust survivors, not in a bad way, but like, oh, the Holocaust survivor helped Yoshi make his speech, and that's why it was so good. And then what was the other two?
Nobody Wants This.
I think some of the negative portrayals of how like the Jewish mom was acting, how she was really kind of salty towards Jen and just calling her Jennifer, that was kind of similar to Nobody Wants This.
Absolutely, yeah, because that's exactly how the mom of Adam Brody acts in that show.
But she doesn't hate her to that same extent. She wasn't calling her, what was the word? It was just something really bad, like a shivka. It's the name of the first episode, whatever. And then the last one you were saying?
Curb Your Enthusiasm.
I think it has the potential to have some curb moments, especially between Avi and like he might do something really stupid and it just comes back in a way that by the end of the episode it doesn't work. Maybe that's why he gets divorced. I mean, Larry David in the show got divorced to Cheryl, right?
Yeah.
Her name Cheryl?
Cheryl, yeah.
Okay, all right. Well, yeah, so that's it. Thanks for listening. We'll see you on the next episode. Hope you enjoyed this one. Bye.
Bye.